right, so we're going to kind of continue with this idea of our polynomials. This time we're going to talk about rationals, and rationals is a fancy word for fraction. And you can see here, this is my fraction I'm going to use. We're going to talk about very specifically that cost idea from before, so a business application of the average cost. So that's the only thing we're really going to be doing with rationals is this application of business topics, and we're going to do average cost. So looking at example 1, we want the cost of producing X thousand calculators, and I gave you that cost equation right there, this time just straight out. And I meant to say in the last video, I pointed out that inequality there, I'm going to get to what all those mean. I'm going to kind of take some baby steps here at the beginning, so maybe just put a pin in that, just hang on with it. I promise I'm going to get to explaining it. I just don't want to do too much at once. So for now, I'm just going to work the problems, and we'll get into that meaning as we get further along into our exam 1 material. The directions ask for us to write that rational expression, so that's a fancy word for a fraction, and it wants the average cost, so that's the formula that I have written up above. So I'm going to take the cost, so just directly copying over from the directions, and I'm going to divide by the total number, and the total number is that X thousand. We saw that before, and that in the profit, cost, and revenue from before, we multiply by 1000x. This time, since we are doing fractions, we're going to divide by it. And that is my answer. I can just stop right there. That is the rational expression. Now let's go down to example 2 here. And I do want to add a little bit actually to the directions on this one. Everything there is fine. Not going to change anything. I'm just going to add that X is in thousands of bottles. I meant for that to be in there. We talked about X thousand calculators. So we're going to put X is in thousands of bottles. So we'll just add that to the directions up here. So a little bit added directions. Now to actually work the problem. We want to find the average cost. So that average cost again is going to be using that little formula up there at the top. I've given you the cost, and we're going to divide by that 1000 again. So this time the cost is negative 3x squared plus all that other stuff, 1000x. And I've given you actually how many bottles we want this time. I don't want the expression up here at the top. The first one, I wanted the rational expression. This one, we want to actually find the average cost. We're going to get an answer. We're going to round to the nearest cent. So if we look, I told us that we are doing 25,000. So that means X is 25, because remember, X is in that thousands of bottles. I just added that to the directions. So I'm going to plug in 25 everywhere I see X. Make that plus sign come up. I'm going to divide by 1000 times 25. Now we can type that in our calculator. I would type in the numerator and get an answer. And if we type that in, and you should try typing it in to make sure you're going to get the same answer I am, and then type in the denominator, get that answer, and then we're going to divide. And the directions tell me that we want to round to that nearest cent. So cent is 2 decimal places. And in general, anytime we're talking about money, we're going to go to 2 decimal places. That's just the common decimals that we round to. And this is per bottle. So that's my answer.